everyone, this is Sebright Chen. I'm the founder and chairman of Summer Atlantic Capital. So the topic we are going to present today is technological developments redefining international trade. So we all know that technology infrastructure and applications are evolving significantly year by year. How do different participants, such as Global 500 startups, financial institutions, government agencies, consulting firms, as well as investment firms benefit from the continued development of technology and adapt to the new context? So before we start, let me introduce briefly about Summer Atlantic Capital, what we do, and myself. Summer Atlantic Capital is an asset management company headquartered in Hong Kong that helps innovative companies, especially in the US and Europe, to expand internationally into emerging markets or Asian markets such as China. Summer Atlantic Capital Hong Kong is a main entity and the central hub for our international partnerships and the management of our teams in both US and China, as well as our portfolio companies. Besides that, Summer Atlantic Capital has a subsidiary in the US that is mainly responsible for marketing and the evaluation and negotiation with potential companies that are interested for an international expansion into markets such as China. At the same time, Summer Atlantic Capital USA also helps bring innovative companies from markets such as China to expand internationally to the US or Europe. Summer Atlantic Capital China is a sister company that brings the investment capital, market research, market evaluation, and ongoing business operations and management for newly formed entities in China to ensure a successful expansion of those companies back in the US and Europe. So we partner with industry leaders across different sectors we are focusing on, such as medical technology, as well as deep tech industries such as artificial intelligence, robotics, IoT, agriculture technology, all things related to technology with a focus on matured companies that with a product that is already commercialized in their local market that is ready to expand internationally. So let's go back to our topic today. First, let's start by taking a look at the history of the Industrial Revolution. So I want to ask all of you a question. How many industrial revolutions do we have in history till now? I think most of the people will answer 3 because we already experienced and completed the 3 industrial revolutions, which is correct. But indeed, the reality is we are currently experiencing the 4th industrial revolution. In other words, we are witnessing the historical moment coming. So the first industrial revolution is characterized by things like mechanization, steam power, and water power. And the second industrial revolution is characterized by mass production, electricity, and the third industrial revolution, we all know, like there are technologies coming up, new technologies such as automation, manufacturing upgrades, information technology, electronic, and biotechnology. And right now, we are experiencing the 4th industrial revolution. So what's the difference between the 4th industrial revolution and the previous 3 industrial revolutions? Well, so the new technology we are having right now, such as the Internet of Things, cyber physical systems, or in other words, we can say things like artificial intelligence, augmented reality, mixed reality, autonomous driving, things like that. Those technologies are not new. They all happened before. Now we understand different industrial revolutions all bring technology development and new technologies applications in different applications and products. So what are the impacts of those industrial revolutions and new technologies on the international trade? So let's take a look at those different aspects. The impacts on communication, on transportation, logistics, the impacts on financial services, manufacturing, supply chain, government agencies, and policies. Let's take a look at the impacts on those areas because those areas are mostly the aspects and the areas that are affected the most by the technology development. So let's take a look at the communication first. At the very beginning, people need to, before the Industrial Revolution, the only way people communicate with each other is to speak to each other face by face. What does that mean? That means, well, if you are standing in front of a person, you guys can hear each other's talk. But if you guys are more than certain distance away from each other, you cannot hear what others were speaking about. So in other words, the communication is very limited before the Industrial Revolution. With the new technology coming up and the evolvement of new products such as email, smartphones, and the applications built on those new products such as WhatsApp, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, WeChat, etc. How does those applications change our lives? Now we can communicate very easily with anyone around the globe as long as they have the internet access. We can call them, we can have video message with them, we can speak to them face by face. In other words, technology development brings closer people's distance and makes communication much easier and effective. What about transportation and logistics? Well, same thing. At the very beginning, people can only stay in their local area because there is no transportation vehicles available. There's no airplane, there was no ships, there was no airplanes, there was no railways, there was no cars. So how can people travel to such a long distance without those vehicles? It's almost impossible for them to cross different countries by foot or by riding a horse. It's too far away. But right now, with the developments of new vehicles, people can easily fly to another country. And we all know the fourth industrial revolution we're experiencing right now might bring new types of vehicles and products that could possibly bring us from the US to China within an hour. Well, it's still under the R&D stage, but it is a possibility. What about the impacts on the financial services sector? I want to say payment, how we pay things. So at the very beginning, people use some commodities as the currencies, and later on, people start to have different countries started to have paper currencies. And right now, in certain countries, people are barely using paper currencies. So what do they use? They only use an application in their phone, in their smartphone, to pay with their phone. So all the banks are adapting to those new payment methods rapidly to adapt to the change and customer demands. So let's talk about manufacturing and supply chain, which is also an important aspect of the international trade. Before, companies can have very limited exposures in their local market. With the development of new technology and the industrial revolution, the world is becoming closer. People is easier to communicate with each other, and then people start to travel to different countries, explore the new business opportunities here, and figure out, wow, take a look at this market. This market have, if I put my manufacturing factories in this country, the labor cost is much lower, and they might work more effectively. So they started thinking about put some of their manufacturing to other countries rather than their local market, and move some of their R&D centers or sales and marketing centers to new markets to understand and develop the product that could be very popular in those local markets and to have better efficiencies in the local market. And that helps those companies a lot in expanding their business. And that's the start of those large corporations right now, those global 500s. In other words, there's no magic of them. They started early and they adapt to the market situation. What about the government agencies and policies? What are the impacts for those aspects? Well, the government agencies, they are the ones that are very busy with the new technologies. In other words, they are even busier than any other parts of the participants in the market, because if the industrial revolution is bringing new technology or new products and changing the way people communicate and travel, then the government have to react and plan forward ahead of time for those changes to make sure the policies is going to be a fit and help business expansions for those participants, as well as they might need to, start new government agencies that could fit the current needs. So they are the busy ones. What is the difference between the fourth industrial revolution, which is the industrial revolution all of us are currently experiencing, and the industrial revolutions that happened before? What are the differences between them? We mentioned artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, cybersecurity. None of them is new. So why we still use the fourth industrial revolution to call those technologies happen right now? Well, it's a combination, from my understanding, it's a combination of those technologies that at the same time that makes the new infrastructure. So before, like technology such as artificial intelligence, IoT, they happened before, but not at the same period of time, which makes them become separate segments in different products. They're not, in other words, they are not connected together. By connecting all those technologies together, which is what we are doing right now, there is a new infrastructure that is being building up, which let me call it technology as the infrastructure to enable everything, all the industries we are doing. So what do all those different technologies that happened in the fourth industrial revolution have in common? So let's take a look at, let's review again together with, the major components of the fourth industrial revolution. So the major components from my understanding, I'll say technology such as artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, augmented reality, mixed reality, autonomous driving, autonomous control systems. So what do they have in common? Well, someone might say it's all technology. Yes, of course, but what do they have in common that is, making some impacts? From my understanding, I would say that they are bringing our, like our distance closer, bringing more data transparency, as well as they are making our work, our life more efficient, more easier, and give us more, multiple different ways to enjoy our life, to have different ways to relax. In other words, more efficiency, more time, more transparency, and less distance. Or in short, with the adaptation of the new technology with the fourth industrial revolution, the world is becoming closer than ever before. Let's make an example of artificial intelligence, which is the most widespreading technology in all the different applications we have right now. We can use AI for different industries and different, companies and government agencies across different countries. So let's make an example with artificial intelligence. What is the impact of artificial intelligence on international trade and economic growth? So if we are talking about economic growth, there's no way we can avoid the topic of human capital. So there are certain downsides with the new technology developments, such as artificial intelligence. The reality is artificial intelligence will affect the type and quality of economic growth. For instance, AI is likely to accelerate the transition towards services economies. But there are concerns about the impacts of the jobs, of the job market. For example, artificial intelligence is likely to expand automation and speed up job losses for low-skilled blue-collar workers in the manufacturing sector, because the manufacturing sector is all replaced with AI-based things such as robotics. But in parallel, there is another way artificial intelligence can help change the current landscape of the work market, which means the blue collar can start to learning new skills that is used to add value for production and products. This way, the job market is not going to be affected significantly, but indeed, the artificial intelligence is increasing the quality of those workers, blue collars. So this will lead to further expansion of the share of services in production as well as international trade. International expansion for global companies. What about the international expansions and what we should do? How we are going to do the international expansions under the current global technology context? So first, we understand the new technology involvement is bringing more efficiency, transparency, and it is reducing the distance and risk we are facing before. We were facing before, and I wanted to use one world, one complete market right now because right now the market is so connected that we can't ignore any of the parts of the world. So, the world is indeed one complete market. So, how are those global 500 small and mid-sized enterprises and, financial institutions, government agencies, consulting firms, investment firms do the international expansions under current global context? So first, I would say that there is a restructuring occur in the supply chain, such as we see the technology involvement brings the change of labor cost in different markets. Such as China. Before there were lots of global 500 used to have manufacturing in China, and right now some of those companies are bringing manufacturing to different countries such as India, but there are also new technology companies such as, especially in the medical technology sector that is before underdeveloped in China, but China is indeed the biggest market in sales and distribution. They are starting to bring in more and more, like manufacturing in China, as well as SMEs. They started to having more exposures in markets as China as well, and financial institutions they started thinking about accessing the new market and making some investment in the emerging markets to hedge the risk, to especially hedge the currency risk they were facing in their local market currently, and to catch more alpha in the investment market. So for consulting firms and the investment firms, the same thing, and especially for investment firms, they are having more allocations towards the different markets, emerging markets and Asian markets. And for consulting firms, they need to adapt how they are approaching their new customers and the service they are providing for their customers in different markets, because a market in Asia, a customer in Asia, a customer in Africa, they will have different demands. And for government agencies, it's the same thing. They have to adapt to the culture in the different countries to bring more benefits for their, companies. And the shifts of market segmentation is also very obvious, such as, let's make an example. So McDonald's, companies such as McDonald's, they are very good in market segmentations and adaptation into the new market. So we all know that, KFC and McDonald's back in the US, they always have fixed products. Especially KFC, their flavor is totally different from their flavor and products in China. And indeed, McDonald's started to having some Chinese food, in hybrid with their traditional burgers in markets such as China. So does KFC. They started to have some Chinese style products, and indeed their sales right now is very significant in markets such as China. That brings the logic why the adaptation to the new market circumstances is very important for a successful operation expansion of any company and business into the international markets. And the shifts, there is also a shift in the global investment portfolio allocations. These not only happens for financial institutions and investment firms, but also for those global 500s and SMEs. So before, for investment firm, they might have little allocations in markets such as China, but right now they're putting more and more allocations in markets, in the Asian markets, especially in China, because the market is growing, significantly, and the consumer is very active here to bring lots of sales for their portfolios, so that it's a new way to generate alpha. At the same time, Global 500 SMEs. So let's talk about Global 500 for 1 second. Global 500 used to have sales, lots of sales and distribution in markets such as China, but right now, they are also uh, thinking about bringing different types of their services into different markets and shifting some parts into the Southeast Asia or India. So, because the market is evolving and they are adapting to the change. But for SMEs, it's different because they might never access the new market before. So it's their first time ever to access the new market. So they might uh, bring something else. So how are we going to access the new market? How are we going to successfully access the international markets under current situation? Well, we will talk about that in more details in the next slide, but uh, now I want to talk a little bit about the global collaborations in the R&D. So the new technology development, also brings more collaborations in different aspects of the business, especially in R&D, because data is very important in all the technology infrastructure, especially such as IoT, artificial intelligence. So all the data is a foundation of the development of new products. So people started to trust more towards cross-border teams, different cultures, and started to collaborate more in the R&D of different products and technologies. So how are those different market participants, such as corporations, investment firms, government agencies, how are they going to access the international markets under the current circumstance with the new technology? Let's do make an example with artificial intelligence. So first, let's talk about the global value chain. So AI is already having a significant impact on the development and management of global value chains. It could be used to improve the prediction of future trends, such as change in consumer demand, and to better manage risk along the supply chain. By allowing business to better manage complex and dispersed production units, such tools improve the overall efficiency of global value chains. For example, business can use artificial intelligence to improve warehouse management, demand prediction, and improve the accuracy of just-in-time manufacturing and delivery. Robotics, which is also part of the artificial intelligence, can also be used to increase the productivity and efficiency in packing and inventory inspection. In other words, a business can benefit and can use artificial intelligence to improve physical inspection and maintenance of assets along the supply chains. The development of global value chains will be affected by the broader trends towards using artificial intelligence to develop smart manufacturing. For instance, an industry, a company, like such as from the US, a US manufacturer that is based on sensors, IoT, and cyber physical system could connect machine, material, supplies, customers. This will include the capacity at the factory level of predictive machines and self-maintenance, complete communications between companies along the supply chain, and increase the ability to manufacture according to customization or customer specifications, even in small or single batches. Such developments could strengthen and extend the global value chains. Another example, smart manufacturing, which is also a word we are using with the Industrial Revolution, with its emphasis on connectivity, could open up global value chains to more specific participation by specialized services and suppliers in areas such as research and development, design, robotics, and data analytics tailored to discrete the tasks in the supply chain global value chain. So in other words, there are lots of innovations in different products. So the new technology is making product innovation much faster, much easier, and could adapt to the new market rapidly. Marketing and sales. The distribution, marketing, and sales towards new products and new business is using more technology platforms, and these would involve more and more collaborations towards different markets, different teams, different people. So for example, before a company might expand on their own, they started to figure out, oh, it's not the most efficient way. And right now, they're collaborating with their local partners to do the expansion together with the new technology platform to make sure all the information is transparent so they can trust each other. So those brings the initiatives towards cross-functional collaborations. So in other words, we have to trust each other under this situation to make the international expansion more effective, as well as in the capital markets and then in the investment community. There are lots of capital collaborations occur which never happened before, that different sovereign wealth funds start to think more cooperations with each other in different cultures. Those are all the positive impacts on the international trade with the new technology developments.